Welcome to Retirement Decoded with your host, Scott Tucker, where we break down the complexities of retirement planning to give you clear, actionable advice. Whether you're just starting out or getting ready to retire, Scott's here to help you make informed decisions and secure your financial future. Tune in each week as we simplify the process and decode the path to a stress-free retirement. Now, here's your host, Scott Tucker.
Well, welcome back to the Retirement Decoded podcast with Scott Tucker. I'm your host, Scott Tucker. My trusty co-host, as most all the time, is Associate Advisor Andre Hootie. Say hello, Andre Hootie.
Hello, Andre Hootie.
Andre Hootie, what's going on in Andre Hootie land? You've been married for quite a good measure of time now, about a year or so. And has Lauren gotten you to behave?
Yes. I think as the saying goes, "Happy wife, happy life." I've learned that very well.
Longtime listeners might know I'm in my early 50s, and my fiance is in her early 40s. We've been together 10 years, Andre. We've been engaged 5 years.
Well, it's going to be one hell of a wedding.
Well, you know what, Andre? Is it? Question mark. It's not me, Andre. For once, Andre, I'm not the problem. Natalie has the cold feet.
Oh, well, she needs some socks.
She has the cold feet. You know what I did one time? We'll get into a question from Margaret about some retirement planning issues and grandkids and things, money for grandkids. What I did some years ago during COVID, I got on a kick where I just couldn't. We used to live in the city of Chicago then. It's where we are now. We're federally licensed, so we can help folks all throughout the United States, including its territories. But some years ago during COVID, we lived inside the city limits, city of Chicago, and a little bungalow and all this stuff, and you just kind of feel hemmed in, and they were telling you couldn't travel anywhere. Governor Pritzker in Illinois closed all the restaurants, and then he went to dinner in Wisconsin.
That must have been a good dinner.
So what a lot of folks in Chicago started doing during COVID is traveling to other states. Because how do you contain a virus? You travel to other states.
So if the governor's doing it,
The governor's wife, our governor, J.B. Pritzker, he's a multi-billionaire. He's one of the heirs to the Hyatt fortune. And he closed all the Illinois restaurants, which I said at the time, the only person he stayed at a restaurant is J.B. Pritzker because he happens to be quite large. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, and I didn't think it was good for small businesses to shut them down like that. You can drive a family bankrupt doing that. So then J.B. Pritzker, he went to his house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin with the state police detail, went out to restaurants. And then his wife and their daughter, they got on the private jet and they flew to Florida, and they just rode horses the whole time and did equestrian jumping over fence post things, because down there it was Governor DeSantis still had everything open.
Right.
Natalie and I went back to Michigan to see my Uncle Mike, because my Uncle Mike, COVID be darned, he had the pontoon boat and the Trump flag. He even called the governor, Governor Whitmer. He called her and said, Governor Whitmer one time in Michigan said you couldn't have your pontoon boat on a lake. And almost all of Michigan's lakes, inland lakes, Great Lakes, all this stuff. People in Michigan are nuts about the boats. That's where I grew up. I grew up in the Lansing, Michigan area, and live in Chicagoland now for 26 years. So Natalie and I went to go see Uncle Mike because he had the pontoon boat and the Trump flag. And maybe 25 minutes away, my mom voted for Bernie, her and her husband, and they have his and hers Toyota Priuses or Prii. And he used to talk to her on the phone. He goes, you're so scared. They had all these political arguments. He says, you're so scared. You put on a mask to talk on the phone. But Natalie and I went to see my Uncle Mike and Aunt Laura. And Uncle Mike goes, hey, on your way here, if you don't mind, stop about in Jackson. It's about 20 minutes from his house, maybe. He goes, stop at this barbecue place if you would, and just pick up. He goes, because my cousin's kids were there. Mm-hmm. So he had the grandkids over. He goes, there's going to be about 6 of us for dinner by the time you get here. If you don't mind, there's a really good barbecue place. You want to pick up some stuff? I go, well, yeah. Because number one, Uncle Mike's not charging us room nights at the end, right?
Yeah, so you could do.
He did a lot of stuff for me growing up too, and kind of like a father figure to me. So I stop at the barbecue place in Jackson, get a whole mess of barbecue, and we go over and eat with a couple of my cousin Chad's kids. And but it was funny how our during COVID, we would go to Michigan or we go to Wisconsin, or we even went to Utah. You couldn't go to a restaurant in Illinois, but you could go to Utah, go all over the whole state.
That's just, yeah.
And I think when we were in Utah, we were able to go from there, Colorado, that Four Corners area at one point, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. And we saw all kinds of stuff during COVID. But one thing I did, coming back to the cold feet, Andre, I got in a snowmobile kick. I said, you know what we ought to do? They're telling us we can't go outdoors. We got to buy snowmobiles because I'm from Michigan. That's what people do. They, when in doubt, get cabin fever, you buy some snowmobiles. So I almost bought snowmobiles.
I wish you did. I would go with you.
Well, so then I was going to have a trailer, 2 sleds. Actually, I have the helmets at home in the basement. The snowmobile suits, the boots, all that stuff. And then I got these like heated gloves and she would always complain. I don't know. She's like, oh, I'm cold, whatever. So I got these like heated mittens. And then I got it in a kick on Amazon. The heated mittens were really cool. And then I got her these heated socks. And then one time she fell asleep on the couch in the wintertime with her heated socks and her heated gloves on. And she woke up. She's like, I burnt my feet. There's a warning on the socks. You could burn your feet. Andre, let's get on to business. Enough of the silliness. Margaret writes to the podcast. She says, Scott, Andre, I'm giving my grandkids $1,000 each to open a Roth IRA. One is 19 and the other is 16. So I'll open a custodial account for the younger grandchild. So, Andre, we have seen a lot of stuff where you give a kid money and they don't turn out the way you thought they would. Mm-hmm. We've even seen where you give a kid money, if you do it the wrong way, it interferes with their FAFSA, their free application for federal student aid, and could cause the child and their parents to incur student loans rather than get grants from the federal government for college. We've seen a lot of things. So let's not pick on Margaret too harshly, but Margaret says, I'm giving my grandkids $1,000 each to open a Roth IRA. Now, to open a Roth IRA, Andre, what do you have to have?
Well, you have to be 18 to start to open up your own Roth IRA.
Well, to do your own. Yeah. You could open, as she said, you could be a custodian to a minor, the 16-year-old.
Okay, so
but what do you have to do? What do you have to do to qualify to open to fund a Roth IRA?
You have to have earned income.
Earned income. So the Roth conversion, you don't have to be working.
No, you don't.
But the Roth contribution, you have to be working.
Exactly. Right. It sounds like they'll be doing a contribution. So.
Well, first thing they'll be doing is getting their narrow butts to work. Andre, my first job on the books, when I was 16 years of age in Lansing, Michigan, I worked at Schmidt's grocery store, northeast corner of Waverly and Saginaw. You know where that is, Andre?
No, I can't say
Waverly Road and Saginaw Highway?
I'll go up there this weekend. I'll look for it, though.
It's not there anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I was a grocery bagger at Schmidt's grocery store in Lansing, Michigan. In 1989, I was 16 years old. So the first thing your grandkids will be doing, if they're not already, is getting a job. So the 19-year-old, you can't just go gift her $1,000 to open a Roth. And actually, she has to be the one to fund it. So you got a couple things you have to do. This is a little hairy, isn't it? The 19-year-old, they have to have earned income of $1,000 in the tax year you want to fund the Roth IRA for. You have to gift her the money. Then she has to write a check or do something or other. She has to take some sort of action to fund the Roth IRA. Mm-hmm. Now, the one that's 16, get a job. You could gift them $1,000 as well. But then now this whole custodial thing, you might be able to pull off. Oh boy, it's gonna be complicated. Not undoable.
No, it's not. It's just there's a few extra hoops to jump through, and you have to be extra cautious. What
you could do if you really put your grandkids to work real heavy, maybe in the summer. Kids don't get summers like they used to, Andre. When I was growing up, our last day of school would usually be somewhere around like June 6th, something like that. We wouldn't come back till after Labor Day.
Oh, that is so nice. I never got that.
It's like a 3-month deal. It was like we were farmers, but nobody's farming anymore.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I was like, I finished mid-June and always started in early August or mid-August. So
that's awful.
It just, I never really got a summer to begin with. Well, that's, aside from the fact that I worked all summer. Every summer.
Longtime listeners of the podcast may know that Andre Hudi came to this country when he was 3 years of age from Ukraine after the Soviet Union fell apart. And then he was born, and then he came here at 3 years of age. And Andre, you were the first person you came with your parents and your grandparents on your mom's side. You were the first person in your family to learn English.
I was, yeah.
And nowadays, it's like you're running the consulate.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like it.
The war breaks out. Andre's got to fill out the refugee paperwork. Andre's dad's business, they need something or other. Andre has to get on the computer and find them something or other or make the phone call about it. Your grandma and grandpa have something with the rental property in Chicago, and Andre gets to do that too. You got a jack of all trades, Andre.
Yeah, it's hopefully one day all these little skills I picked up pay off.
It's funny because you're full time at Scott Tucker Solutions Inc., I-90 in Cumberland, neck of the woods near O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, Illinois, and yet you find a whole nother probably 40, 50 hours to work for your family.
Yeah. I have basically two full-time jobs, but I only get paid for one.
So Margaret wants to give $1,000 to a 19-year-old grandchild and then $1,000 to another 16-year-old grandchild to fund Roth IRAs. One caution there, Margaret, your grandkids could turn around and take the $1,000 back out and do whatever they want. Not the 16-year-old maybe, but the 19-year-old certainly. So Taylor Swift comes to town, and your 19-year-old wants to buy one Taylor Swift concert and the nosebleed ticket and the nosebleeds for $1,000. She can liquidate that Roth IRA. There's no penalty, not like she'd care if she did that. She wouldn't care about penalties. There's no penalty on getting the principal back, but any growth would be penalized by the federal government by 10% because your granddaughter wouldn't be 59 and a half yet.
Yeah, she's gonna have to wait a little while to pull out those earnings.
You got to wait till Taylor Swift is 80 years old, and then you can go see her, something like that. So Margaret says, Scott, Andre, what should I invest in? Well, it's not your money, so you shouldn't invest their money. It's not your money. Once you gift it, not your money anymore. Mm-hmm. So make sure you check your references. Make sure these grandkids, are they grandkid worthy? What should I invest in since they have many years left to let it grow? Well, Andre, if the kids have a long time horizon, the children should invest their money. Once you give it away, it's not yours anymore. The kids shouldn't invest their money, the 19-year-old and 16-year-old. One's a kid, one isn't. Probably pretty aggressively, right, Andre?
Yeah. You have, the kids will have time to kind of just deal with the fluctuations in the market. It goes up, it goes down. And let's just put it this way, especially if you put it in the Roth IRA, they really shouldn't touch that for a long time, as long as possible, because, that's the best tax treatment. So if they're a little bit aggressive, for the next 30, 40, 50 years while they're working, it's in their benefit to do so.
And Andre, the best tax treatment because, they will not enjoy a tax deduction putting the money in the Roth IRA, but then the Roth IRA will grow tax-free the rest of their lives. If they were to take any income from it past age 59 and a half is when they might want to do that, or they might never want to do it. We'll talk about that. Income from a Roth IRA is not reportable income. It doesn't go on your federal 1040, which means it doesn't cause any federal taxation of your Social Security. Also, what they could do under current law, under the Secure Act of 2019, they could leave the money to the next generation, and the next generation would have 10 years additional to grow it tax-free after they're gone. Yeah. So it really could be a thing. Margaret says, what's she say here? Currently, the money's sitting in a cash account, so it's sitting in cash. She says, my hopes are to get the grandkids accustomed to saving and learning how to invest at a young age, which I did not, and I'm still learning. You want to get them accustomed to saving, but you're gifting them money. So, and I'm not, giving grandparent advice here, right? You want to get them accustomed to saving. The way you're trying to do things, you have to get them accustomed to working because you're trying to found a Roth IRA. I don't know if they're working or not. I don't want them to work so much they screw up their schooling, but and then you wanted to get them accustomed to saving. Well, maybe teach them how to work and save some of their own money, not just gifted money. Not to fault you on this. You want them to learn how to invest at a young age. I wouldn't be too razzle-dazzle. Slow and steady wins the race. At a young age, I would be invested a little bit more aggressively, or quite a bit more aggressively. And then Margaret says that she didn't learn how to save and invest at a young age, and she's still learning it now. As a grandmother, Margaret's an old grandmother there. Yeah.
And I will say it's a lot of, especially younger generations tend to think that being aggressive means maybe you have to day trade or you have to pick that one stock. Just, Margaret, and for you and for your grandkids, being aggressive doesn't mean you have to pick one stock and just, live and die by that stock and to have all your savings put into that. Being aggressive is, not investing into bonds, maybe being more aggressive into equity ETFs, stock ETFs where you have diversification, but you're not in just one stock.
ETF, exchange traded fund.
Exactly. Yep.
She's still learning, Andre, and here you are with your ETFs.
All my acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Margaret, but but something I wanted to also kind of mention, Margaret, is I'm not sure. I know we're talking about the grandkids here, but it sounds like you want to not only teach them how to save, but you also want to leave them something after you're gone. So something, if you haven't already done this, I'm not sure how you've saved your money, but if you haven't saved all your money in Roth IRA or haven't moved money into Roth IRA. We can maybe help you there too, and help leave a better legacy to your grandkids and to the rest of your family.
One concern I have when Margaret says I want to get them accustomed to learning how to invest, saving and learn how to invest at a young age, which I did not, and I'm still learning. Margaret, I'm also concerned when grandparents want to gift money to grandkids, and the grandparents haven't taken care of their own money yet. What I mean by that, only a strong person can help a weak person. So maybe you ought to take care of yourself before the grandkids, or maybe there ought to be a work requirement, maybe work and grades requirement, or work, grades, and chores at grandma's house requirements. Maybe $1,000 is more than you need to do or should do for these kids. Maybe you ought to just show them how to, here's how you work, here's how you save, and I'm gonna maybe you do a grandma Roth IRA match. Maybe you say, how about you all try to see if you can save $1,000 on a Roth this year. And if the 19-year-old, the 19-year-old, that's an adult, isn't it, Andre?
Yeah.
And if you're not going to school, you probably ought to be in the military. And if you're not in the school or the military, you probably be in a trade, in an apprenticeship. If you're not doing any of that, why is it your job to gift $1,000 to a 19-year-old?
Yeah.
Andre, when I was 18, my mom dropped me off at a hotel because the next day was Navy boot camp. I'm a little hardcore on some of this stuff. I'm tired of 40-year-olds living in their mom's basement.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful, Margaret. It is a tough path to walk, isn't it? Margaret, I'm more concerned about your money before I am about these grandkids. Let's say Margaret is, 70 years of age. That might be just about right. Could be a little older, but let's say Margaret's 70 years of age and she's got the 19-year-old and the 16-year-old grandchildren. You don't have a lot more years to work, Margaret. We have folks that keep working. They're 75 and working. We have folks that work to 80 and 82 and all kinds of stuff. But really, most folks don't want to work that long. So, Margaret, you don't have a big time horizon for working. In most cases, most people are 70. Let's say, you can tell us your age. But you guess what? Guess what the 19-year-old and 16-year-old have to do the next 50 years? Get a job, stay at the job, keep working. Change jobs, whatever, but make some money. So they have the rest of you want to teach the lessons. I don't know that it takes $2,000 of your money that ought to be Margaret money, that is Margaret money, to get them to learn how to do things right. Mentorship doesn't have to cost $1,000 a grandkid. So helping them figure out how to get to work, how to save some of the money, and maybe you give a little incentive. Hey, here's something or other towards that goal. But just being, having those conversations with young people while they're still young about how to work, how to save, how to invest, that really is more valuable than the $2,000. And I think the $2,000, you might need it. You didn't tell us what you have, but when you say you didn't learn how to save and invest when you were younger, that kind of leads me to that concern.
Yeah. It's, speaking from experience, my parents focused very much on having me earn everything that they ever gave me. Kind of do the chores, go help your dad with this. I got my first job when I was 15, my first on the books job. I had been working with my dad since I was 11 and doing construction. So I really learned the value of $1, and when my first job paid me $7.25 an hour, and I had to pay my own gas, and gas was $4 a gallon then. It would take me an hour just to get 2 gallons of gas, so to get a whole tank it would take me 2 days of working. And so so I learned how to count money in a slightly different way because I was forced to work. They didn't want me sitting around and doing nothing, and so at the time it wasn't fun. As a kid, of course, all you want to do is play video games and go to the park and do whatever else. But down the line, it really does help. So I know it's, Margaret, speaking from experience, teaching them how to work and how to save, like Scott's mentioned, it's going to go a lot further than just giving them money.
And when I grew up, my grandpa taught me a lot about work, and my grandpa grew up in the Great Depression, and when he retired as a truck driver later, he at one point had his own truck and was doing the over the road stuff. When he was 65, he did the standard grandpa retirement back then for the folks who lived through the Great Depression and fought in the war. He was a B-24 tail gunner. And when he retired, he bought a little cottage about an hour north of Lansing, Michigan. And he said, it's at Town Line Lake, kind of north and a little bit west. And he said, hey, Scott, you want to go? It was in the summer. He goes, you want to go up to the cottage with me for a week and we'll go fishing every day? And I go, yeah, Grandpa, that sounds great. What does he do the first day? 0600, grabs my leg and shakes me awake and says, get up, breakfast is ready. Into a kid on summer vacations, 6 a.m.'s a little like, oh, geez, in June, really? And then so we go, and it's like eggs and toast and bacon or something. And it's about 15 minutes into that. And he goes, okay, let's put the plates away. Let's go out in the yard and pull stumps. And so out in the yard, we're out there all day with this, was it riding a lawnmower? It used to be called like a wheel horse or something. It was like an old riding lawnmower. And he had like a trailer hitch and a chain on it. And we're out there pulling stumps all day from like 6:30 in the morning until like 4 o'clock. And we stopped for lunch, 20 minutes maybe for lunch. And not till about 4 o'clock, all hot and sweaty. And he goes, okay, let's go fishing. He had a pontoon boat. And I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, Grandpa, the fish aren't biting when it's 90 degrees and it's 4 p.m. There's no shade. They're done.
But you earned it, right? You
earned it every day.
Yeah.
Well, you've wasted yet another perfectly good 21 minutes or so listening to the ramblings of a short bald man, namely yours truly, Scott Tucker. Go ahead and like and subscribe and share the podcast. Give us 5 stars or whatever. Share it on Facebook page. Down below, you should see, or just type it in your old computer, your smartphone. TuckerRetirement.com. At TuckerRetirement.com, you can see our phone calendar, and you can schedule 15 minutes for free with us over the telephone, and we'll spend 15 minutes for free with you in the coming week over the telephone. Get your questions answered and your answers question. We'll talk to you on the next episode.
Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. has a strategic partnership with tax professionals and attorneys who can provide tax and or legal advice. Neither the firm nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions. A Roth conversion is a taxable event and may have several tax-related consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. The views and opinions herein are those of Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of AE Wealth Management, LLC. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AEWM and Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this podcast shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Scott Tucker Solutions, Inc.